Your name.
Is in my father's will.
Excuse me?
He trusted you. He never forgot you. I fired you. And he left you everything.
How much?
$120,000.
Ruthless CEO fired a single dad janitor, then froze when his name appeared on her father's will. Victoria Harmon did not believe in second chances. She believed in quarterly reports, performance metrics, and the kind of efficiency that left no room for sentiment. At 38, she had built Harmon Financial Group from a mid-tier consulting firm into one of the most feared investment companies on the East Coast. Her corner office on the 42nd floor of the Harmon Tower looked out over the entire city. And she liked it that way. She liked seeing everything small from up there. So when her assistant Claire mentioned that the overnight cleaning staff had been leaving scuff marks near the elevator bay 3 days in a row, Victoria didn't hesitate. Find out who's responsible and let them go. She didn't look up from her laptop when she said it. Daniel Reyes arrived at Harmon Tower every night at 10 p.m. He was 43, broad-shouldered, with hands that had known harder work than pushing a mop. He had been a licensed electrician for 16 years, until the accident at a job site left a hairline fracture in his right wrist that healed crooked and ended his career. After 2 years of night school, failed interviews, and too many evenings sitting at a kitchen table pretending not to worry, he had taken the janitorial position without complaint. It paid $22 an hour. It had health insurance. His daughter Lily was 8 years old and needed both. Daniel worked the 41st and 42nd floors, the executive level. He had a system: lobby first, boardroom second, restrooms third, then the long corridor that led to the CEO's corner office. He always did Miss Harmon's office last. He was careful in there. He never touched anything on the desk. He made sure the recycling was sorted. He buffed the floors near the windows because the morning light hit that section first, and she would notice. He had never met her. He only knew her by the cold geometry of her office. The clean lines, the absence of photographs, the single orchid on the windowsill that was always perfectly alive, never one petal out of place. He did not know about the scuff marks. He had reported them to maintenance twice already and requested a different buffing pad. The request was still pending. On a Thursday night in November, a security guard named Pete met Daniel at the elevator with a yellow envelope. "Sorry, man," Pete said. He looked like he meant it. Daniel opened the envelope in the parking garage. His termination was effective immediately, no severance. A check for his final 2 weeks was enclosed. He sat in his car for a long time. Then he drove home to relieve the neighbor who watched Lily on his night shifts. She was asleep when he got there. He stood in her doorway and watched her breathe. Then he sat at the kitchen table and made a list of places he could apply to in the morning. Victoria's father, Richard Harmon, died on a Saturday in December. He had been sick for 2 years, quietly, stubbornly sick, in the way that proud men sometimes are. He had kept the extent of it from Victoria, and she had let herself believe what he told her, that it was manageable, that there was time. There was not. The funeral was small. Richard had been a private man. Victoria stood at the front in a charcoal dress and shook hands and accepted condolences and felt, beneath all of it, a hollowness so vast she could not find its edges. She had not cried yet. She was not sure she knew how anymore. The reading of the will was handled by her father's attorney, a careful older man named Gerald Park, who had known Richard Harmon for 30 years. He read the standard provisions first: the house, the accounts, the shares. Victoria received the majority of it as expected. Then Gerald cleared his throat. "There is one additional bequest," he said. "Your father was specific about this, and he asked that I read his accompanying note aloud." Victoria straightened in her chair. Gerald put on his reading glasses and unfolded a handwritten page. "Victoria, if you are hearing this, then I have already gone, and I want you to know I left nothing unsaid between us, except this one thing, which I should have told you years ago. There is a man named Daniel Reyes. He was my electrician for 11 years. He came to our house every time a wire sparked or a circuit failed, and he always came on a Sunday if we needed him, even when I told him not to. He never overcharged me. He never cut corners. After his wife passed, he brought his little girl with him sometimes on weekend calls. She would sit on our porch steps and draw in a notebook while her father worked. You were grown and gone by then, so you never met them. When Daniel had his accident, I helped him as much as he would allow, which was not much. He is a proud man, I am leaving him $150,000 and ask that you ensure it is delivered without condition and without delay. I trust you to do this right. You are harder than I raised you to be, my love, and I hope this finds you before that hardness becomes permanent." Gerald folded the letter and set it on the table. Victoria did not move for a very long time. It took her 3 days to find him. HR still had his contact information on file. She asked Claire to pull the termination record. When she saw the date, 6 weeks ago, just before Thanksgiving, she read the reason listed: scuff marks, repeated complaint, performance failure. She read it again. She had fired him for a scuff mark. She had fired the man her father trusted, admired, and loved enough to remember in his will. For a scuff mark she hadn't even witnessed herself. Victoria Harmon sat in her corner office with the city laid out below her and felt, for the first time in years, the full weight of what she had become. She drove to his address herself, no assistant, no driver. It was a modest house on a modest street, well kept, with a small porch and a wind chime that turned lazily in the cold air. She sat in her car for 10 minutes before she made herself get out. Daniel answered the door in a gray sweatshirt. Behind him, she could hear cartoons and the sound of a child laughing. He looked at her the way people look at something they aren't sure is real. "Miss Harmon," he said. "Mr. Reyes." Her voice was steadier than she felt. "May I come in?" He stepped aside. The living room was small and warm and full of crayon drawings taped to the walls. A little girl with braids and her father's dark eyes peered around the hallway. "Lily," Daniel said gently, "can you give us a few minutes?" Lily disappeared. Victoria stood in the middle of the living room and looked at those drawings, dozens of them, horses and houses and one large sun with a face, and felt the hollowness in her chest shift into something else, something that hurt more. "I came to apologize," she said. "I know that's insufficient. I fired you without cause, without due process, and without ever considering the person I was affecting. That was wrong." Daniel watched her. He didn't say anything. "My father left you a bequest in his will," she continued. $150,000. No conditions. I will have it wired to you by end of week." She paused. "He also left me a letter. He told me about you, about your daughter." She exhaled. "He was a better man than I have been. I'm trying to understand the distance between us." Daniel was quiet for a long moment. "I knew your father," he finally said. "He used to leave a Tupperware of food on the porch when I came to work weekends. Said his wife always made too much." He almost smiled. She passed 10 years before him. He still said it every time. Victoria pressed her lips together. Her eyes burned. "He never stopped taking care of people," Daniel said. "Even when he didn't have to." "No," she agreed. "He never did." She reached into her coat and withdrew an envelope. Not just the wire transfer confirmation, but a formal letter of apology on company letterhead, and a reference letter she had written herself. Detailed. Specific. The kind that opens doors. "I also have an offer," she said. "We are renovating 2 floors of the tower. The electrical contracting position is open. It would require you to work with the wrist. I spoke to our medical consultant, and there may be adaptive accommodations available. It's yours if you want it. No obligation." Daniel looked at the envelope, then at her. "Why?" he asked. It wasn't hostile. It was an honest question. Victoria thought about the letter, about the orchid on her windowsill that she had never watered herself, about the 42 floors between her and the ground. "Because my father believed the measure of a person is what they do when no one is watching," she said quietly. "I have been failing that measure for a long time. I would like to stop." Daniel took the job. He started in January, on a Monday, with a new crew and a set of adaptive tools the company's occupational therapist had sourced. His wrist ached in the cold. He worked through it. Victoria stopped eating lunch at her desk. She started walking the floors, all 42 of them, every Friday afternoon. She learned the names of the people who cleaned her building, secured it, ran its systems in the dark. She kept her father's letter in her desk drawer, folded in thirds, in the same envelope Gerald had handed her. Some mornings before the city below her got loud, she would take it out and read it once. "You are harder than I raised you to be, my love. I hope this finds you before that hardness becomes permanent." It had found her, barely, but it had found her. and Victoria Harmon, for the first time in a long time, was grateful.